traffic starts in Manhattan. More readily obtainable in Manhattan, especially in the Harlem area, up around Lexington Avenue, from about 97th to around 135th Street, 116th Street, running east to west completely, 125th Street, and so many other spots. Probably take me all day to name them all.
America's known heroin population of over 60,000 collectively shoots nearly 2 tons of opiates a year. More than half live within the tenement shadows of Harlem and the Bronx. For the ghetto dweller, heroin is a desperate bid for freedom, an escape from the despair of the tenement prison.
After getting married, sort of couldn't meet up with the responsibilities that I had taken on, and sort of felt the need to escape from these. My first marriage, I've been married twice, has only lasted about 4 years, with continuously using drugs. I had 2 children. Right after my first marriage broke up, I was immediately married again. In fact, my first marriage broke up through meeting this other woman. I went along for about 8 months not using drugs, and finally I come back to getting the feelings of, you know, trying to escape again. And I started using drugs 8 months after my second marriage.
I feel that the main problem in the city at the time is environment. I would say that the good majority of the people that go on to heroin go on it as a result of their environment. The people they know, their friends, the ready availability to obtain it, and so forth.
I started to use it. I started to sniff it just to be part of a group. I started to use it while I was in school. And one day I woke up and I was addicted. You know, I woke up and I was very sick, and I didn't know what was bringing it about. But I did find out that as soon as I took some heroin through my nose, I got well. I felt normal.
And once a fellow is on heroin, it may be years before he realizes or wants to admit to himself that he is indeed a junkie and that he is in need of help.
A fellow can start on narcotics, I would say, at any age, really, of course, and within a matter of 3 to 6 months, starting out at about $4 or $6 a day, he can work his way up to a $100 a day habit.
I was using about over $100 a day. Everything I would get was to go through my arms.
The Harrison Act of 1914, strengthened by a series of Treasury Department regulations, is the basic law restricting production and distribution of narcotics. Although the law does not refer to the addict himself, the implicit premise is that addiction is willful indulgence, meriting punishment.
I feel that the people living in the metropolitan area are arrested more frequently and exposed to arrest, and the possibility of being jailed much more than the people in suburban areas, for the simple reason that a good majority of them, the majority of them, come from poverty homes. They don't have, in most cases, money for proper legal aid, although the city will provide them with some.
What about you? Let me see what you look like. What are you doing with the needle in your hand now?
Possession alone is sufficient evidence for conviction. Users, anticipating raids, frequently conceal their day's supply in a toy balloon, keeping it in their mouth. If apprehended, they swallow the evidence, knowing that they can retrieve it later.
Are under arrest for unlawful possession of needles and unlawful possession of heroin.
Following World War II, hard drug use, particularly among young people, was on the upswing. Public reaction surged, resulting in more stringent controls, stiffer penalties. The 1956 Narcotic Control Act spelled out the most severe and inflexible set of laws ever put on the federal books. Penalties for possession were only slightly less than those for selling. Probation was possible only on a first offense possession charge. The sentence was 2 to 10 years. second and third offenses, and selling in any quantity, even soft drugs such as marijuana, brought terms up to 40 years with no chance for probation or parole. Selling heroin to a minor could bring a possible death penalty. At the same time the law was taking a harsher look at the addict, popular opinion began to swing back in his favor, recognizing that he was not just a criminal, but a sick person, a pathetic, tortured human being in need of help. The Narcotic Addict Rehabilitation Act of 1966 set forth a new national policy for treatment of addicts. At the core of the policy is the premise that addiction is an illness that should be treated, not a criminal act in itself. For the first time, federal law permitted addicts to apply for treatment instead of being prosecuted. At the Federal Narcotics Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, bars that had restrained addicts for 33 years were removed, dramatic proof of society's new attitude toward the wretched victims of the opium poppy. It became a major drug abuse research center, administered by the National Institute of Mental Health.
One of the distinctive contributions of the Narcotic Addict Rehabilitation Act of 1966 is the fact that it authorizes us to provide up to as much as 3 years of aftercare supervised by professionals in the community, in which the major emphasis is put on helping the addict to correct whatever inadequacies may have contributed to his addiction in the first place, in order to maximize the likelihood of his adjustment when he returns home.
Throughout the 1960s, many new treatment programs have been launched, in and out of government. Some programs take their philosophy right to the center of the action, in the ghettos where drug abuse is rampant. Exodus House. Here, ex-addicts who have begun to remake their lives work closely with narcotic patients, right in the community where the drugs are pushed and used. Daytop Village is typical of the halfway house concept, where the addict is slowly eased back into society, one step at a time. In community extension projects like SPAN, the addict meets with citizens on the outside. He holds frank discussions with them on a group basis. When he returns to his community, he is more than just a law-abiding taxpayer. He is a civic leader, a doer, an activist. The drug problem, in all its complex facets, is a challenge to everyone. We are all potential drug takers, if not heroin, then tranquilizers, stimulants, sleeping pills, and alcohol. Even if we live in the country's finest communities, our children, at this moment, may be experimenting with marijuana, hallucinogenics, amphetamines. Tight laws and stiff penalties are not the answer. A former narcotics commissioner admitted that the mass flow of hard drugs into the United States could not be stopped even by the collective enforcement of the customs inspectors, all the Treasury agents, the FBI, and the combined strength of all the armed forces. There are essentially two ways to reduce the problem. First, by attacking it on the user's end. Continued research and public enlightenment will increase our understanding of the addict and his compulsion to escape through drugs. Secondly, beyond attacking the problem on the user's end, we must, in a concert of nations, attack it on the other end, the source. The plant itself, whether a poppy, Indian hemp, or the cocoa leaf, is grown out of economic necessity by farmers who are native to a land that offers little. The ever-existent black market price tempts the registered growers to overproduce, to conceal a part of their legitimate harvest and place it on the worldwide illicit markets. Studies sponsored by the United Nations have shown that in each country, there is a practical and profitable alternative to the narcotic harvest. In the region of Baalbek, Lebanon, where 90% of the land was once planted with cannabis, or marijuana, now grow commercial crops that benefit rather than destroy. Nature's strange gifts, which Thomas de Quincey called the abyss of divine enjoyment, have been with us for 60 centuries. But only in the last 60 years have we released the truly lethal derivative.